What is up, guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the market as a whole. As we have been looking a little bit weak recently, I wanted to talk about some possible targets to the downside, as well as some possible targets we could be looking to bounce off of and continue back to the upside. Now, we have two main catalysts coming out of last week and this week, being China's new coronavirus 2.0 type deal. We haven't gotten much news on that yet, but that is definitely something to keep an eye out for, as well as Nvidia's earnings coming up this Thursday. That is definitely going to impact the market, as it always does, either in a very bullish way or a very bearish way. Obviously, we do not want to see a miss coming up, or else that would lead to some pretty heavy downside, and we're going to go ahead and talk about that. Now, I do want to talk about some price targets that we can be looking to bounce off here. These are just going to be very basic price targets right now, because if we are to miss, or if there is some, bad news to come out, these targets can absolutely be wiped out, just the same as if some of these newses are, wrong, or they come out as false, or Nvidia is to beat. These could be completely invalidated and we could just fly back up and see all-time highs by the end of this week. Anything like that is 100% possible, so just take these with a grain of salt. But just a general rule of thumb here, I'm just drawing out some good support and resistance lines here for where we could be looking to fall if that is to happen. Now, once we get past this 570 range, that would be eyeing a market correction. That is where I would be kind of thinking that maybe this bull run is over for a little while. I do think that a drop like that can happen, but I think if we were to go to our next checkpoint at around 561, and if we were to break that to the downside to around 539, I do think that that would be, market correction territory. And I do think that people would start to treat that like a market correction, furthering, the market correction itself. But I do want to go ahead and look at not only these price targets to the downside, where we have 590, then 575, then 570, then 339. There's obviously going to be some in between that, like right here, but so on and so forth. We can talk about those falling attributes right here, where we have us coming out of this wedge right here. And obviously this could be a false breakout. Honestly, that's kind of what I am expecting to happen, especially if Nvidia is to beat. But we could see a drawdown to at least this 590 range, which is what I expect at the bare minimum. We can also go ahead and draw out a Fibonacci retracement tool and see where we would be bouncing, which is perfect. This is honestly going to be my new plan. I didn't even see this before making this video, but really this is going to be my plan that I'm going to eye to kind of see a bounce right here. I don't think that we see a huge drawdown, especially if Nvidia is to beat on earnings. I think that we'll see maybe this golden zone retest, and then we start bouncing out of Nvidia's earnings. That is a prediction that I have, and I do expect that. Honestly, that looks perfect to me. Obviously, if we are to break to the downside, then our plan would change, and we kind of target that next $575 range. We also do have some gaps that we left down here. For example, this one right here, and a few others, but there really isn't a whole lot of bullish or bearish sentiments out. We have Nvidia's earnings, of course, and then the China news, and that's about it. Obviously, there has been some weakness with the inflation rates and all of that drama going on between Trump and Powell. Now, I don't think that is really going to draw a huge drawdown, but I do want to talk about if we are to see a market correction. In the last big market correction we saw was around 27%. So just going ahead and taking that and copying and pasting it, that would be around, I believe, 20% from where we are today. 21%, which would take us all the way back down to around $480. That would really suck. I'm really hoping that doesn't happen, but it really is inevitable. I mean, there has to be a correction, especially after a 2.5 year long bull run like we're in. And then drawing down to see maybe even if we go lower to around that $27 or 27% retracement, like we saw in our last market correction in 2022, that would be targeting around $445 on SPY. So obviously there is a lot of downside here, but we have been in an uptrend for over 3 years now. There's no reason to panic yet. I don't think that falling out of this wedge is a bad thing. We have seen plenty of these wedges where we fall out of it and absolutely crash for 2 weeks. Everyone panic sells and cries, and then it rebounds and they're wondering why they didn't make any profit because they didn't buy that dip. So right now I'm still in buy the dip territory. I think I would be out of that territory if we were to dip below 564. That is where I would stop touching anything, let my portfolio just ride the wave all the way down, wherever that may be. And then once we do kind of find a bottom, that is where I would start really adding heavy. I'll end up probably DCAing on the way down, but really adding heavy anything under probably 500 if we were to get there. But we can also price target all the way down. Some of these targets down by like 513. And then other things down like right at 493. So there is just some other ideas. This is kind of how I would go about this. You can't predict something like this, so that is why these support and resistance lines are so bleak and vague. Just because this is going to be news based. If there is something like that, something is going to come out that will drive the market down inevitably, and not a long term thing, but a relative long term thing compared to what we have seen recently, where it's been straight up for the most part. So with Nvidia, I do want to talk about this because if Nvidia is to beat, we will see the market rise. If Nvidia is to beat, I honestly think we will see all-time highs again. If Nvidia is to miss, I think a correction could be on the in the future, and that could be happening very soon. I really don't expect Nvidia to miss. I could almost guarantee you they don't miss. The only thing I could suggest is that if there isn't a great guidance, or if they do not blow it out the water like everyone always expects. If they don't beat EPS by 10 million percent, people find that to be bearish. I don't. I don't understand that. If they beat, they beat. That's a good quarter. And then with Nvidia, when they're bringing in $50 billion and they're keeping 25 billion of that for a 50% margin, I really don't understand you can have a bad quarter. But that's just my opinion. I do think that Nvidia will beat though, and I do have some price targets up to the high side of around 148 to 153, and then to the downside of 121 all the way down to 113 if the earnings are bad. So we can go ahead and look at that and then bring that back over to the S&P. If we are to lose or miss, I do think that we end up at this 590 range before earnings, and I think we either bounce out of that if we beat, and if we miss, I think we head down to that 575 range. I'm very confident in that, and I'm thinking about taking some long puts up into Wednesday and then selling those Wednesday afternoon, and then hopping into maybe calls for Thursday if I do want to play Nvidia's earnings come that time. And then if we are to miss, I will definitely be hopping in some puts all the way down to around 575, maybe even lower down to 570 or 564. And if we are to beat, really my next price target would just be all-time highs again. And then we'll kind of have to see how the market is reacting once we do get back up to that $613.23 range. Now, there is some other stuff to go over with with the Chinese coronavirus 2.0. There isn't a lot of news out on that yet, so I would not stress that. I saw a lot of people overreacting and a lot of people selling out of their positions, but I really don't think that is a smart, tactic. We have seen stuff like DeepSeek, for example, come out. Everybody, craps their pants for a week, and then it turns out that they were using Nvidia's GPUs, so on and so forth, and it costed them 50x what they said it was. So there is some things where it's just kind of fear mongering, in my opinion. Maybe they're just trying to, liquidate people and get them out of the markets. I do honestly think that that is a strong tactic that they use, and it definitely does work. So it wouldn't surprise me if that is something that is occurring, especially with all the recent, trade wars between China and US. I wouldn't be surprised if there was some, fear mongering thrown in there. So that is something to keep in mind. I'm not saying this is fake. I'm not saying there isn't a coronavirus 2.0. I'm just saying it's not confirmed yet. I don't think it is, a 100% thing. Um, and I do think that this will impact the market different, even if there is to be a coronavirus 2.0. I think the market will recover much quicker, and I think people will be well more allocated to take that fall than they did in 2020 when it was right out of nowhere. Now we at least have seen it before, so we do kind of know how to trace that pattern. And I do expect if that is to happen again, we will make our way through that market as it comes. But for now, my price target would be down to 590.49, where we do end up in this golden zone and at resistance. From there, we either bounce with Nvidia's earnings or slip through and fall to around $575. Now, I do not think a market crash is coming. I do think a correction is coming. I do think that that comes by the end of this year. As much as it pains me to say, I really do think that is going to happen. I don't want to see it, of course. I know nobody wants to see it, but it is essential to keep a healthy market long term. We can't just go up forever. And honestly, that is what SPY has done long term forever. But short term speaking, maybe next year to around 8 months to 12 months, I do expect a correction to happen within that time. And I expect that correction to last around 6 months, hopefully only taking us down to around 510, maybe 530 if we're lucky. But realistically, something like 493 will probably break 500 and then bounce from there. Obviously, that would suck to see, but it's the market, it's the game that we play, and you know that that is a possibility. So just make sure you guys are starting to understand that and make sure that your portfolios are allocated for that. If you guys need to start holding more cash, I 100% would advise to do that. Trade with your plan though. Keep what you have. Don't sell out of good companies just because there is one bit of news. Stay strong, stay focused with your strategy. Also, we did just make a new addition to our Discord. We now have two more premium benefits where we do have our handbook now, and we also do have a lifelong membership. Now, we had multiple questions asked about that, so I do want to hit this really quickly. We do have a lifelong membership which sells obviously lifetime premium. We also have our bullish handbook, which is a beginner to advanced guide on how to trade the markets, how to understand the markets, risk management, etc. But that is all included in our lifetime premium offer. So make sure you guys do click the link in the description down below and join up on that free Discord. And from there, go to our sign up links where you guys can check out our premium offers. As well as that, make sure you guys do comment down below what you guys think of the market right now. Do you guys think Nvidia will beat? Do you think the market is headed for a correction? Do you think this coronavirus 2.0 is going to wipe the market completely? Are we headed to 200? Let me know down below. I'm interested to hear from you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next video.